Okay, welcome. My name is Andy Tanner, and it is absolutely a genuine pleasure to welcome you to this introduction of the Ultimate Options series. This has been it's been long in the making. We've had students request for a long time to do a extremely detailed and as comprehensive class as we can. So congratulations on coming, congratulations on tuning in and starting this amazing journey in options trading. It's so much fun. It's so interesting. And I'll introduce him in depth later, but I'm joined in this series by my good friend, Corey Halliday. Corey, how you doing?
Hey, Andy. Doing great. So excited to be here.
This is going to be a lot of fun. The purpose of what we're going to do here is very simple. This is just to introduce you to this class and help you look forward to how it's going to be laid out, to pace yourself properly, and just learn. And there's going to be so much in here. If you've been a student of ours for any amount of time, you're familiar with what we call the 4 pillars of investing. Ideally, a person has already completed the 4 pillars class before the Ultimate Options course. The Ultimate Options course is an intermediate course touching maybe to the advanced realm at times. It's definitely not a beginner class, and so we very much like the idea of someone having gone through four pillars, right, Corey?
Absolutely. I mean, I use a basketball analogy. You always want to work on the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are in those 4 pillars. They're the critical elements. So once you build that solid foundation, it makes all of the learning and all of the trading that much more simplistic and that much more profitable. So very important.
Absolutely true. So here we have our fundamentals, our technicals, our cash flow, our risk management, and we're going to actually use these 4 pillars to do this. So what will happen is we'll give you a great review of options, even though it is taught in the 4 pillars. We're going to go to the next level and talk about the next level option concepts. What are those? Well, we're going to learn what a risk graph looks like. We're going to learn what the deltas and the gammas and the thetas and the rhos and the vegas are, the Greeks. We'll really talk about credit trades for cash flow. These are going to be money that you get up front. It puts a credit in your account. And if you've been through our Quick Start Labs, you'll be somewhat familiar with these, but we're going to go into much greater detail here and really break these trades down. Debit trades are where you're looking for price movement up or down. It's more of a capital gain trade where we're looking for the stock to move. This is more speculative, opportunistic. This is more of an income strategies. We're going to get into some complex options with different dates, different strikes, diagonal options. We're going to get into many of the spread trades that are in combination, and there's greater complexity. But you'll find that in diving into more complex options, there's more opportunity for you. And again, more choices provides different, there's some environments where some people can't trade in because they don't understand these. And so this will really broaden your palette and your toolbox. One of the things people are really craving, and one of the reasons we decided to do this class, is people wanted to get better at understanding when one strategy was more appropriate than over the other. For example, let's say I like the fundamentals and I like the technicals, and now I'm deciding how to exploit it. Well, if I like the stock, should I just buy the stock? Should I buy a call? Should I sell a put? Should I do a put spread, or should I do a credit spread or a debit spread? What is the criteria for choosing one over the other? And it is a little bit of your preference for sure, and a little bit of your goals, but we can give you better guidance on when one of those strategies might be more appropriate for you. So without delving too much into that, we'll do some trade examples, and we're going to keep these very, very evergreen, very, very generic. We're going to use easy stuff like, company ABC and company XYZ, and also examples with, Acme, which is always fun for the Roadrunner. And so stuff like that. And then we'll talk also about the adjustments that can be made if things change. So we'll have a little bit of risk management in here, increase your competency, and really to prepare you for mentorship and the mentorship programs in where you can team up with other investors and get some more private instruction and more instruction specific to what you're learning. But it's more difficult to go into a mentorship situation if we're still learning, very basic things. You get a lot more bang for the investing dollar when we have, really high competency and we can really get A's on these types of quizzes. So with that, let's talk about the biggest goals here. Corey, our mantra at the Cash Flow Academy, as you know, is really, really simple. We believe that if learning is fun to do, it's a topic people enjoy, and we have fun while we do it, that we stick with it, and learning is better. Our talent, we hope, is the feedback we've received anyway, is that we keep things simple. And then third, this stuff has to be stuff people can really use. This can't be information that's interesting. Has to be absolutely applicable. And this is going to be the most comprehensive course we've ever done. It's going to take a long time for people to get through it. This is for the serious investor. This is for the person that says, hey, if I had it to do over again, when I went to college, I would have gotten a minor maybe in asset building, And so this is really not the type of thing, Corey, I don't know if you get this, but people come to me all the time and say, hey, Andy, could you sit down with me for a couple hours and teach me how to trade? And that's kind of like, I'm no brain surgeon, but I would never go to a brain surgeon and say, hey, I was thinking about taking out a tumor out of my head tonight. You think you could give me a couple of tips on how to do that?
Give me some guidance here real quick, and I'll do it myself.
Go to the go to your cardiologist. Say, I was thinking about removing and swapping out my tricuspid valve tonight. Any pointers before I get started? Maybe we could just have a little talk over a barbecue. You can show me how to do that. No, guys that get good at basketball, I spent years to get good at that game. To play a musical instrument takes years. And it is no different with trading. If it were easy, everyone would do it. That's why I congratulate you for doing it. So this is the most comprehensive class I've ever done. It's going to be the most in-depth I've ever done. It's going to be, people said, they're craving detail. I really like the big picture, so we'll talk about that. And we're going to increase your competency massively in your ability to understand options. We're going to prepare you again for mentorship. So that's really what this course is about. We'll always do our disclaimer that we're not interested in giving people advice and saying, oh, you should buy gold or you should buy silver. I never tell people what to do with their money. This is an education course, and there's risk involved for sure in trading options. And so it's very important that we do this in a paper trade account. Everything I take you through, you should practice in paper trade. And and really go about this the smart way and be a grown-up about it, because I never tell people what to do with their money because it's an individual choice. I don't tell them whether to get in debt or stay out of debt. I like debt in real estate. I think it's a wonderful thing, but other people don't. So I leave those decisions, up to you. Just briefly, if you don't know me, I'll be very brief. My name is Andy. If you're new, welcome. I'm exactly like you. Over the past, my story is the same. Over the past 25 years, I've traveled all over the world and taught thousands of people easy concepts of financial education. I always consider myself a student next to you, shoulder to shoulder. And so this is a journey of you, myself, and Corey, the three of us, where we're just students together and we're just going along and sharing what we're learning as students. The biggest thing I've learned is you got to keep things simple. My story is very simple. I went to college like a lot of people do. I wasn't very interested, though, in school. I liked playing hoop, and so I had a opportunity to play basketball in college. When that was finished, I really was lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. Nothing resonated with me in school. Accounting didn't, all the way down to zoology. I opened up that catalog, nothing really struck me. So I just remained as a student, still searching. And I found a lot of happiness in pursuing financial education, how to buy assets. I became great friends with guys like Robert Kiyosaki, Than Merrill, other people like that. And I just love those guys. So So that's really it. The financial rewards are fun when you understand a little bit about it. But for me, it's been the relationships with guys like Corey and mentors I've had along the way. So Corey, why don't you give a little background about you? I see that's a picture of you standing there at the CBOE. Tell me about your background.
That's at the CBOE, the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and that's really kind of my area of expertise. So I'm similar to you in that I went to college. I went kind of that traditional route. I had a friend that was interested in the financial markets, and I saw him doing well with it, and I became interested in that. I thought, working with numbers and working with strategy and things like that appealed to me. And so you should find that you enjoy what you do, and if you do that, then you kind of skip to work and kind of enjoy the things that you're doing. And that's what I found with the financial market. So I went the brokerage route. I got my Series 7 license and my Series 4 license, which is an options principal. And basically I was the one that oversaw the risk management on the option side and oversaw the traders and the risks for the firm and did that for a number of years. And so, like I said, that's kind of my background is in the options market, which is very applicable to what we're going to be going through. The good news is, even though we're going to go through a lot of advanced strategy, what you're going to find is that options are not really that complex when you break them down to the simplest form. There's only two types of options, calls and puts, and so any complex strategy is still just using those two options.
That's right.
And there's, you can only do two things with them. You can buy the call or you can sell the call. You can buy the put or you can sell the put. So the good news is sometimes my daughter brings home homework. She's in the 4th grade, and I have to Google to find the answer and to figure out how it works.
You and me both, man.
You won't be overwhelmed. It'll be a process of having fun, learning, and that's what we aim to do. So very, very excited to be here.
It's important that, Corey being an options principal, not only managing the risk of his trades, but managing the risk of the entire firm, of all the different traders that we're trading. That's a big reason of why I asked Corey to join me, because he understands risk as well as anyone that I know. And I just love teaching with him. So that's a little bit about us. How do you get the most out of this class? First, relax. Don't stress. When I was in college, I took a course that was difficult called organic chemistry. At least it was tough for me. And when the teacher would write something on the board that I didn't understand, I would go into panic mode because I thought, I need to know this because there'll be a test that on Friday. She's going to ask me questions on it. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to be in trouble. And I think that sticks with a lot of us for a lot of years through high school and college that, if I'm saying something you don't get it, that you got to stress. Look, you get to hit the rewind button and watch this as many times as you want. And we have a great support page on our website that when people have a question, they can open up a little support ticket, and we do our best to get back to you within a business day. I'm not. Corey and I were on Saturday when the markets closed. We're watching football or basketball games, but during the week when the market's open, if you have a question, we're delighted to answer that. So relax, don't stress. There's no test on Friday, and if you take one of our quizzes and struggle with it, well, that's fine. Take the class over as many times as you want. We're not going to give you a grade, so to speak, and until you can move on and answer questions. So relax, enjoy this. There's no stress here at all. Anything you want to say about that, Corey?
Yeah, I think that's a big component because a lot of people just feel like maybe this is going to be overwhelming. So that is the most important piece is, look, you can take this, you can go back through the videos, you can rewatch, re-examine, and I think for the most part we're going to make it into simpler terms so that it makes sense. We're going to use a lot of analogies about insurance and about real estate and about things that you really understand. And so when you look at options through that prism, now you start to understand, okay, I understand why someone would buy a put here for protection. It's just like an insurance policy. Okay, I understand why someone would sell this covered call. It's just like generating income off of a rental property. So relax, You'll get it. That's the important part is it'll all sink in by the time we're done.
Yep, absolutely true. Set some goals. Many people will set money goals. They'll say, well, we're going to try to save a certain amount, or we're going to try to get better control of our budget, or I want to have $1 million in the bank, or I want to make $10,000 a month. And they set money goals. Other people will set process goals by saying, I'm going to buy 5 rental houses, or I'm going to buy so many stocks. But very few people, think about this for a moment, very few people set goals on learning things. Very few people do. After high school and college is finished, very few people say, I'm going to very seriously structure very specific goals. So, how many lessons a week do you want to complete? This is set up to do 1 lesson a week. I think that if you go crazy and try to do more than that, it doesn't sink in as much. And the other thing is there's not any time in between to practice when it's just all book knowledge or class knowledge. Part of doing this is to practice these. I strongly suggest you get a paper trading account. In fact, I'm vehement with this. I demand that you get a paper trading account and practice these trades. So if we do, say, a covered call, there's no reason you couldn't put 10 of those in a practice account and watch them for a week or 2 weeks and see how those go out, and then set a date of when you're going to complete the course. And this is comprehensive. There's many, many lessons. This is what students were asking for. I really want to go to almost as if I was going back to college to learn very consistently over this. There's a lot of people that never ever set another education goal. If you haven't completed the 4 Pillars of Investing course, it's really wise to take that, especially if you're brand new. Now, if you're an experienced trader and you've traded for years and you want to get better at options, then welcome, hop right in. But if you're starting at square one, and if I start using words like strike price, if I start using words like expiration date, in the money, out of the money, calls, support, resistance, and you don't know those terms, if I say, look, I'm gonna write a covered call out of the money with a strike that's two strikes out of the money. If you don't understand those words, please complete the 4 Pillars of Investing. And besides, it doesn't hurt to have a little technical analysis and fundamental analysis along to prepare yourself with the cash flow. Would you agree, Corey?
So true. We're going to use fundamentals and technicals for building. We're going to kind of assume that you understand some of those concepts, because we're just going to jump in on some of the strategies, and we're going to say, if this stock is at support, well, you need to know what support means. So some of that jargon is taught in the 4 pillars. Very, very useful knowledge that make sure you've gone through that before you kind of go through the process of this options course, so that you have that foundation to build upon.
One of the reasons that I've never done a course as comprehensive as this one's going to be is because I delight in simplicity, and I do not like fancy jargon. I like to teach the simple things, and it's just for that reason that is why I've always stayed basic. So in this one, Corey's right. It will make the course way too long if we have to start all over here. And start all over. So I'm going to assume you know what a doji is. I'm going to assume you know what support is, resistance, trend lines. I'm going to assume you understand the things that are in the 4 Pillars of Investing course. This is not a beginning course. This is an intermediate, flirting with some advanced concepts at times. Weekly immersion training, you'll do really well if you're in the Mentor Club. I imagine there's a likelihood that you are in Mentor Club, because it's the people in the Mentor Club that have spurred us and asked us to build this course over and over again. So if you're not in the Mentor Club, you'll see us use these techniques in the Mentor Club. This is not an immersion experience like the Mentor Club is. This Ultimate Options course is a classroom setting where we discuss concepts, theories, examples, but you'll see it applied live in the Mentor Club. You'll see us actually do these trades with real examples in real time. And this will, the Mentor Club is awesome. So if you haven't joined it, be sure to join it.
If I could just chime in, Andy and Noah do an incredible job with the Mentor Club. So I would advocate anyone, regardless of whether they're new to trading or the most advanced trader out there, there's something in the Mentor Club for everyone. It is really a great place of learning. So get in there and join them.
I will say that if you're new to the Mentor Club, it's an immersion experience. It's like going to Spain if you've never spoken Spanish. So your first day, you might not learn or understand everything. You'll always learn things, but you might not understand everything. So understand that. But it's, when I go to Spain, the first day, I probably don't understand a lot of the Spanish being spoken. But after a year, I'm there. So this is for serious students. This is for people that don't, that understand that there's no shortcuts. We're going to take courses. We're going to take them at a good pace, nice and slow, and get it going. Use the education continuum. This will keep you out of trouble and from thinking you know things that you don't. So if we go into, let's say I say, okay, we're going to do an inverted diagonalized iron condor. Okay. When I say that, are you ignorant to that? Are you aware of what that is? How competent, or are you proficient? And we want to trade in proficiency. So you're probably familiar with the continuum. We'll use that throughout the course as we do in all our courses. I mentioned that I very much require people to practice as my students on paper and trading. We don't do real trades when we're learning. We always practice on paper. You won't make any money practicing on paper, but you won't lose any either. So that's a good feeling to learn these things and practice. Download the trading journal. We'll talk about that at the end. We have a link. Corey has built a marvelous trading journal in an Excel spreadsheet. And so that's solid, absolutely fantastic to keep the trading journal, and even on your practice trades to get that habit. Be patient with yourself, like I mentioned, not stressing. Be patient with yourself and just enjoy the learning process. The illumination is fun. Look forward to each class you take each week, as new classes or once you complete one, another one pops up in another week. Enjoy that process. Remain focused and stick on the big picture. There will be details. Details are fine to rewind and review and ask questions about. Make sure you stay focused on the big picture each time. And again, for me, please listen. It is normal to take this class more than one time. In college, you're labeled an idiot if you take a class more than one time. Look, I got a bad grade in college in calculus. I got a C minus, and I had set a goal to get an A. I thought, I don't want to be a dumb jock my whole life. I want to get an A. And my first time through, I got a C minus. And I said, doggone it, I want to get an A. So I took it again in the winter semester, and I got an A minus, and that wasn't my goal in A. So then I took it again in the summer school, and I took it 3 times, and I finally got my A. And in fact, I got the class I. You'd think so after taking it 3 times. But for me, I wasn't the brightest kid. Look, you're learning from someone who got a C minus in calculus his first time through. But I eventually got an A in it. Why? Not because I was smart, but because I persevered and I allowed myself to review. So,
persistence.
Yeah, just take a class more than once. Look, when I learned to play ball, I was walked through it more than once. When I learned to play a little bit on the piano and my drum set, I learned and practiced more than once. And I had concepts shown to me more than one time through repetition and review. So there's a reason we give you access to these by recording live. We have to schedule new time, but with a recording, you can review these as many times as you want. Take advantage of that. We're going to simplify jargon. So when there's new words that are important that we think that we're not covered in the 4 pillars, if there's a word you don't understand and we don't define it, it's probably in the 4 pillars. Okay. So we'll simplify the jargon, and we're going to talk about the best uses for every strategy. In other words, some strategies are to protect money, some strategies are for income, and some strategies are for capital gain. So we'll talk about each of those. And this is the thing people were most hungry for in requesting this class. And so we've taken tremendous care to be as detailed as possible for laying out criteria for a strategy. And to do this, we did the 4 pillars. So for example, in this little example here, we have a little chart that says, we have an uptrend here, at the money, at support, high volume, front month. These are criteria, right? And so we're going to do this with the 4 pillars. And we've never been this detailed before. So this will be what you look for. For example, if you've taken the 4 pillars of investing, you know what a covered call is. But in the 4 pillars, we weren't as specific. It's more of an introductory close. Here, For example, when we do the covered call module, you'll look for one of these, and every time we do a strategy, you look for one of these where we lay out the fundamental criteria, we're going to lay out the technical criteria, we're going to lay out very specific instructions on the cash flow criteria. What should it be in terms of delta, theta, vega, what numbers should be in there, and then the risk management. And so we've taken great pains to do that. We won't get to strategies. I'm going to build this class differently. We're going to learn what theta and delta and vega is first. We're going to learn some of these things first. So about your first 7 or 8 courses are going to be foundational before we actually get into a strategy, because it's better to go in with a good foundation. People want to put the paint on the wall and put the roof on before a good foundation, because that's the exciting part, is when you're done. Well, we're going to be smarter than that together. And wouldn't you really like a solid foundation before you go into any trade? So that'll be big. We'll every once in a while implement the trading journal and show you each time when we do strategies how to implement those into the trading journal, how to enter them in. So you'll get practice at that. And then we'll talk about the risk management on each trade, give trade examples and so forth. So what are your action steps here? Your action steps are to download the trading journal. That'll be we have all these resources in the Cashflow Academy website. And so make sure you've downloaded a trading journal, and we have a video that shows you how to set that up as well that we have. And then also begin to, if you haven't got a brokerage account, you really will want to have one with a paper account. And so, you can use things like Thinkorswim. You can use Interactive Brokers if you're an international student outside the U.S. There's dozens there that you can begin to begin the search for that brokerage. Okay.